How difficult is it to find these properties?
It's very easy, is the way I do it.
Okay.
I call it panning for gold, because when I first get the tax foreclosure sale list, there's like 1,000 properties on it. And I look at that as my gold pan. And each piece is a piece of gravel. And I know if I go through that whole list, and eventually at the bottom of the pan, there's going to be several nuggets.
Okay.
And invariably, there's always at least one nugget in every pan that I've ever gone through.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero. I'm your host, Joan Posivy. Today's side hustle is one that takes patience and persistence. But when it pays off, the rewards can be huge. For the past 40 years, Wayne Seminoff has been uncovering unwanted properties, figuring out how to solve their problems, and flipping them for massive gains. Now, not every deal is a winner. Only 1 in 10 turns into a jackpot. But when those wins bring in 5 or 6 figure profits, the time and effort are well worth it. Here's Wayne to share how to spot hidden opportunities, negotiate deals, and use simple strategies to unlock a property's true value. Welcome, Wayne.
Hello.
You've built a business turning problem properties into huge profits. Tell us about one of your favorite wins.
Okay, I got several of them, but I'll start with one of my older ones. I bought a property for $1,000 and I sold it for $400,000.
What?
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
I bought it for $1,000. I sold it for $400,000. Okay, and you just don't do it the first day. But
No.
I went to a tax sale and I bought a property that looked really bad. It was in a wetland. It's in downtown Kirkland, which is a really high rent area where I live on the water.
What state is that?
That's Washington. It's like Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
Okay. And the lot was right in my backyard. It was 6 blocks from my house. And I lived on the waterfront in Lake Washington. And it was really ugly. And nobody bid on it. And I actually paid, I think, $1,250 for it at the tax sale. Nobody bid on it. I had a really good feeling I could build on it, but I wasn't sure.
When you said it was ugly, you mean like aesthetically or the title?
It was wet. It was wet.
Okay. Yes, because of
right
the wetlands.
Behind all these homes, but it's a bunch of trees with a lot of water on it.
Okay, got it.
Or water near it. And people can't typically build in a wetland, but I know you can. So I went to the city and I arm wrestled them for 2.5 years. And we ended up getting a building permit for a $1 million home on it. And we sold it to the builder for $400,000 with the permit. And the total cost out of my pocket to do all that stuff was probably about $25,000 to get all the studies. But it was a lot of work, and it took 2.5 years. But it's for a side hustle. This isn't something you do full time because you only touch it, once a week or once a month to get it keep it going, and the rest of the time you're doing your normal business.
Yes, that's very attractive.
That was one that I did several years ago. And but I just did a new one. It's even better than that.
All right.
I bought 2 lots in downtown Bellevue where Bill Gates lives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the owner of Starbucks and all that's really high rent area.
Okay.
For $2,000 a piece. Okay. And this is right in downtown Bellevue, or in the residential area right next to downtown Bellevue.
Why was it so cheap?
Well, I only buy from don't wanters.
Okay.
And people who don't want their property. And because that's the only place you can steal property legally and make everybody happy. Because they're happy to sell it, and I'm happy to buy it for pennies on the dollar.
Why would somebody not want a property?
Most people who inherit properties are perfect don't wanters because their dad or whatever bought it, and he has a vision and he knows how to do it. But the kids, they don't want to do what the dad does. And the lady who sold it to me, her dad did what I do. In fact, I knew him. He was one of my old partners. And we would buy stuff at the tax sale. But he died, okay? And she inherited, there was only a handful of properties. And she says, Wayne, I just don't want to do this stuff. And she says, they're probably worth money, but I just don't want to do it. And if you want to buy them, I'll sell them to you really cheap. And I said, okay. And I looked at these 2 lots and I thought, these are killer great lots. And
my partner was hiding these from me.
so I gave her $4,000. She says, fine. And she says, why'd you buy those? Those are the worst lots. She had a whole bunch of them. She says, all the rest of them look much better. So even with her knowledge that she had over the years, and she's a very smart lady, she couldn't see the potential. But I could see the potential because I knew I have all these tricks that I do.
Okay.
There's 7 tricks
Which we'll
that
get into
turn
for sure.
junk land
Yep.
into buildable land.
Yep.
And I could see they fit right in. And a lot in that area in those days, this was 3 years ago,
Okay.
is worth at least $500,000.
Wow.
One lot. And there
Wow.
are 2, so that's $1 million. But over time, we went ahead and we did all the stuff. There was a lot of, they wanted us to do a variance because they're little skinny lots. They're only 50 feet deep.
Okay.
But they're long. One was 1,000 feet long and 50 feet wide. Goofy looking.
Yeah, landing strips as we call them.
Yeah, but it's right on the road and in a perfect living area. And so we went to the city and we arm wrestled them and we got a variance for setbacks because it's so small. And then we also got a critical areas approval, which is part of the lot has a cut in it where they cut the road. And so they call that steep. And because of that, you need to have a critical study, which is a monster. It took 2 years to do it. This is like blood and guts. But we got it and we did it. We did it and just hired out surveyors and stuff.
Yes.
When we're all done. We paid about $50,000 for all that stuff. And then we just put on the market this week. Each lot is for sale for $1.29 million.
Each.
So we're selling both lots for $2.6 million total. Total cost in it is $50,000.
And that's relatively fair market value, what you've got them listed.
Yeah. And even if I'm off, let's say I'm off by half. Okay. Okay. Maybe I don't get maybe I get 1.6. Like I got room to negotiate.
Why did she sell them to you so cheap? Like, why wouldn't she have just gone to a realtor and say, unload these for me?
When people inherit stuff,
okay,
they associate all this negative stuff of their family with the properties. And they just want to get rid of the pain. They're not selling the property, they're selling the emotional pain that they've associated with that property. And the same thing happened. I bought one in Nisqually a year ago. The guy who had originally bought it was going to develop it because it was a nice lot. It was a half-acre lot right in the commercial area. But he died, and then his 5 siblings, 5 children inherited it. And they couldn't figure out what to do with it. And they finally tried to give it away, and they couldn't even give it away. They tried to give it to the city because they thought it was worthless. And the city wouldn't even take it.
Why? What was the problem with it?
Yeah, it had clouded title. The title wasn't clean. They couldn't even give it to the city for a park or whatever. But I can fix title in an eye blink. I saw that thing, and I called the guy up, and I was out of state. He doesn't even live here. And I said, hey, what are you going to do with it? He says, I'm going to let it go in the tax sale because we tried to give it away and nobody wanted it and it has bad title and all. I said, we take $500 for it? I mean, it's a half-acre water clear, a half-acre property and Gort with water, sewer, and power and roads and perfect lot. And I said, we take $500 for it. What do you think? I'm crazy or something like that? I said, well,
pretty low ball.
He says, if you give me $1,000, it's a deal.
Really? $1,000? That's all it was.
Yeah. He says, yeah, no, I would never take 500, but I'll take 1,000. So I sent him $1,000 by Venmo right instantly. You got to do this stuff fast, and had him mail me a deed. And that one is now worth. We're short platting it, and those 2 lots. It's going to be 2 lots, and it's worth $1 million. When the short plat will be over in about a month.
Okay.
And we'll be in it for about 30,000 maybe.
You were able to clean up the title issues?
Oh yeah, I did that right away. I did it. It took 3 months.
Yeah.
I had to do that first.
Okay.
I went to my attorney and I said, let's do a quiet title and clear the title. And I've done all these things so much, I tell them how to do it. I've done so many of these things.
You're telling the attorney how to do it?
I tell the attorneys how to do this stuff. Because
How many have you bought and sold, Wayne?
Oh, I don't even know. I don't keep track. I could say hundreds, maybe
Really?
1,000, maybe. I don't even know. Because I bought them for 40 years and I buy the junk. I don't buy prime stuff.
Yes.
And I buy 10, 15 properties a year.
Okay.
So what I do is I buy a batch at a time and then I work them and I end up with maybe 1 or 2 good ones. And the rest of them I just, don't do anything with.
Right. So they're not all huge wins, though.
Oh, no, in fact, it's almost a 10-to-1 ratio. If you buy 10 things, one is a home run, maybe one's medium, and then the rest, they get worse and worse. And finally, the bottom ones are worthless.
Okay. And so how do you dispose of the worthless ones? Because you're still
Oh,
presumably
even
paying
the worthless
property
ones,
tax.
you can make money off of.
Okay.
Okay, because you can let them go back in the tax sale. And
Mm.
here, if they get bid up at the tax sale, you get all the surplus. So at the tax sale, above the taxes, if it bid double that, you get that amount. And so they sell the property for you at the tax sale.
Okay. So are you voluntarily putting into the tax sale or are you
Yeah,
not?
you have to let it go for unpaid taxes for 3 years,
Okay.
and then it goes to the tax sale automatically.
Okay. So you're purposely not paying the tax.
Yeah, you purpose, and also that it also clears title too. So if the title's messed up, another thing you can do, like adverse possession, or people have been using the property and you want to kill adverse possession, if you let it go in the tax sale, it wipes it out. If a guy's been using it as his yard for 20 years, if it goes in the tax sale,
Mm.
he has no claim when you buy it back at the tax sale. So he goes in the tax sale and then I buy it back, and that wipes out all prior claims.
So you're saying that even though it's not his property, the one that you own, if he's been using it,
Mhm.
then he has a claim to it in some way, shape, or
Oh, yeah, it's called adverse possession. Yeah, if let's say you have a yard and you fenced in 10 feet of your neighbor's yard,
hmm
you fenced it in. After 10 years, you own that property by adverse possession. That's what it's called.
So
It's law. And
yeah.
they have it all. It's no, universal. They have it everywhere.
Okay.
And let's say it's a separate parcel to his neighbor's house. Let's say the neighbor in the back has two parcels, the main house and then a little piece where that is. If that goes in the tax sale, the adverse possession claim is eliminated when you buy it, whoever buys it at the tax sale. So
Mm,
if he buys it back at the tax sale, then it cleans that claim out. And then then you can tell the neighbor to move his fence.
got it. So if you own a property that goes in the tax sale, can you legally buy it back?
Yeah, you can.
You
You have to
can.
buy it in a different entity. You can't buy it directly in your name, but you can buy it in ABC LLC, just some LLC.
Okay.
Yeah.
So walk us through one of those sales or walk us through your methodology. Like for starters, how do you even find properties?
Okay. The easiest thing for me is I just go, the county tax sales here in King County, Washington, are just a perfect place for all the don't wanters in the whole universe to put their property. Because it's where all the people who haven't paid their back taxes for 3 years or more
Okay.
put their property. And half of them don't pay it because they're lazy. And that's okay. They're smart, but they're lazy. And they'll pay it off and they'll take it out of the tax sale. But there's the other half is they just don't even want them. They don't want to pay the property taxes. They've owned the property for years. They inherited it. They got it in a divorce. It's part of a business deal that went south. There's all these negative reasons to make them don't wanters. And if they don't want the property, that's a perfect target for me.
Okay.
Because what I do is I call them up before the sale. Okay. I'll call them up before the
Mm,
sale so I don't have to compete with the bidders. And I'll call them up. I'll get the list. I'll get the guy who lives in Omaha, Nebraska, who owns this goofy little lot here in Bellevue.
So the owner's contact information and name
It's
is on those documents?
it's on the list. Yeah,
Okay.
it's on the list.
All right.
Not the contact information, but it tells where they live. And then I look them up. I have databases that can get phone numbers for anybody, anywhere.
Even cell phones?
Oh, yeah. In
Yeah.
fact, I get
Okay.
cell phones. Yeah.
Okay.
But you need to have a good database to
Mhm.
get phone numbers because my theory is you got to call people and talk to them. You can't send them a letter. And then I call them and I ask them if they're don't wanters. But and I
Do you
don't say it that way.
literally? I was just
No,
going to
I
say,
don't say
literally
that.
use
I
that
don't say
term.
that.
No, okay.
I call them. I say, hey, I said I got the property in a tax sale, and were you planning on letting it go in the tax sale, or are you going to pay the back taxes? And if they say, oh, I was planning on letting it go, I go, bing, that's
hmm
it. He's a pure don't wanter. And I said, okay. I said, I'll give you some money for it. And sometimes I say, how much would you like from? And the other time I say, I'd be willing to buy it from you. Would you take $500 for it or $1,000, and then we negotiate.
Because it would have to be an amount over the tax owing, would it not?
No, the amount, it doesn't, it has nothing to do with the tax amount. Let's say I used to buy them for $100. I'd offer a guy $100.
Right.
And they go, no, are you crazy? Give me $200. But anyways,
Yeah.
and really that's a true story. I've had that happen so many times. But no, you buy it now before the sale,
Yes.
but it's going to be in the sale. Then you study the property, make sure it's really good and valuable. I go in more in-depth study of it.
Okay.
And if it looks really good, then I go to the county and I pay the taxes to pull it out of the sale. So now I
Okay.
pull it out. So I pay the penalties. And here, the penalties and back taxes are a minimum of $2,000.
Okay. Before it goes to
Because
tax
of
sale.
all the penalties, I paid $2,000 or $3,000 to pull it out of the sale. But if it's worth $100,000 or more, that's how I look at it. If they're worth $100,000 or more, then I'll chase them.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that I understand the process right. So you reach out to this person, they agree to say $200, you pay them the $200.
Yeah.
And then when you go do your further due diligence and you think, oh, okay, this is a really good, I want this. In that moment, when you're going into the, say, town office to pay the back taxes, who owns it? You or still that other person?
Okay. Before I pay the back taxes, what I've gotten is I picked up a deed from the guy,
Okay.
but it's not recorded. It's in my hand.
At this point, they've signed it over to you?
Yeah, they signed the deed over to me.
Okay.
Yeah, when I give them the $200,
Yep.
I have them do a deed quickly somehow or other. I get the deed right away. And then I carry it physically down to the recorder's office. You have to record it to pay the taxes.
Okay.
They don't let you pay the taxes unless you're the owner. So I go into the office, one office, I record the deed. I go to the next office and I pay the taxes.
And then they pull it out of the sale and it becomes yours.
And then they pull it out of the sale.
Got it. But because you've got to act fairly quickly, there's only a certain amount of research that you've got to do. You make your decision and then you may or may not be throwing away that $200.
Right. And I'm pretty sure when I buy stuff, I can pretty much tell if it's really good or not. I do make some mistakes, but not very often. The majority of stuff, I'd say stuff that looks really good, I probably get 9 out of 10 of those, maybe 8 out of 10.
Okay. All right. So now the property is yours. What are typically some of the issues that you would deem to be junk land?
There's a list of 7 or 8 major things that you can do to fix a property.
Okay.
And one of the biggest ones is a variance. Because I buy junk land that's too small or ugly or wrong shape. Something's wrong with it. And variances are a technique that cities allow you to do to fix defects in the property, like you need better setbacks, or it's too small, or odd shape, or the height limit isn't good, or all these things that would destroy the buildability of the lot. If the item that needs to be fixed destroys the buildability of the lot, you can get a variance from it to make it buildable, and the city will support you.
Oh, okay. So an example might be the property is really narrow, and so you have to build with a certain setback, but the property width doesn't allow that?
That's the number one. Because usually these properties are so small. Let's say the setbacks are 20 feet in the front and 20 in the back, but let's say your property is only 30 feet wide or 40 feet wide. Like the ones in Bellevue, those $2 million ones.
Yes.
They were 48 feet deep. Okay.
Okay.
And the front yard setback was 20 feet and the backyard setback was 25.
Oh, my.
So the buildable area was 0.
Yeah, basically 3 feet.
And so I went to them and they gave me a variance to have I think it was a 7-foot front yard and a 7-foot rear yard. And we approached them saying, we want to build 2 5,000 square foot homes, one on each lot. And they gave me the variances to build 2 5,000 square foot normal size homes on these little 50-foot wide lots.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's possible even though, say, for example, the neighbors, I'm just really surprised if something has setback requirements like that they would be that open to giving you that.
No, Yeah, it's shocking. The cities support variances. They're very nice
Okay.
about it, and they'll help you with them because they want to add more building units because when you build something, they make a lot of money.
Right.
It's almost like legal stealing. You can't believe the fees they charge. But no, they like variances. And the neighbors have a chance to oppose variances.
Yes.
And they can say their 2 cents or whatever. But generally, if only a few neighbors complain, it's okay. But if 1,000 neighbors complain, they won't let you, they'll say no.
And part of it, I would think, would be being respectful of the neighbors in the sense of not proposing something that is really going to destroy their property in the interim. Do you know what I mean? By being,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah, you try and build something that's reasonable for the neighborhood. This is a nice neighborhood, so the houses are nice. So 5,000 square feet is normal for the new ones, the new
Right.
houses. Yeah.
So we can refer to that as your Bellevue example?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
my
the one?
Bellevue example.
Okay. Tell me about that process of getting that variance. Is that what you called it?
Yeah, it's actually very easy to do. You can hire somebody to do it for you.
Okay.
If you see, you don't have to know all this stuff. You just have to hire it out. And I've done them myself because they're pretty easy to do relatively.
Yes.
And you can hire somebody to do a variance for you, and it probably costs you maybe 5, 10,000, 15,000 to do it for you. Okay. And then they do all the work. So you don't have to
Okay.
worry about it. But they have 4 things. They give you a list of 4 things you have to answer, 4 questions. Was the hardship created by you? You answer the questions. And if you
Yes.
answer them, I used to write variance responses in the old days, like on the back of a napkin. It was so simple.
Yes.
And the best part is you don't even have to create the language yourself. You go to somebody else's variance with the city and you get a
Mhm.
copy of it and you take it home and you change the names and you put your name in, and because it's all the same. Each variance is the same. They have the same 4 questions with the same 4 answers, and you just alter them slightly to. And so that's how I did it. I just find another variance that's done and I erase their name, put my name on it and make some changes and turn it back in.
Because that would be public record, right?
Yeah, and it's all public record. And they'll give
Yeah.
them to you. They'll give them to you. They'll give you the variances. Yeah.
That's a great tip, Wayne. And I suppose, too, it's making their job easier, too, because they're saying, look, this one went through. So this is
Yeah.
the information and the content that we need.
Yeah. That guy
Yeah, I
paid
love that.
$50,000 for that. And me, it cost $50.
And what is the time frame these days? Because in some cities and counties, it sounds crazy length of time that these things are taking. What's been your experience?
Oh, yeah. No. And the bigger the city, the more trouble it is
Yes.
time-wise.
Yeah. Okay.
The smaller the city, small is fast, big is slow. And that's how it is. I talked to a guy last night. He says in Bremerton, he got a permit in 6 months to build a building, a
Okay.
multifamily thing.
Right.
In my area here in King County, things are taking 2 years, 3
Wow.
years, 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
5 years.
Right.
I've got a 45 unit complex I'm doing that's on the 5th year. And so you have to be very patient on these because it just takes so long. But then when they come to fruition, they're worth so much, it's really worth it. Like that 5-year one, when it comes to fruition, it'll be worth $2 million net. And if you're going to work in a big city, you got to know that it's going to take that long and understand that and be willing to wait.
Right.
But I'd suggest for guys, if they're going to do that, to do it in smaller cities because waiting drives you crazy,
Yes.
And I'd say, well, you can do the same thing in any city. So just go to smaller cities.
Are you doing this just in your local area that you can physically take a look at these properties, or have you
Yes.
done
Yeah.
deals? You're okay.
Yeah. I read a book about diamonds in your backyard, a sales book way back when.
Yes.
And I believe in that. And I'm lazy. And the diamonds are in my backyard. The $400,000 one was 6 blocks from my house.
Perfect.
That I told you about. And
Yes.
I did another one a mile from my house. There's bargains everywhere. And being in high rent areas, if you find a bargain, you get really big payoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of it. In your low rent area, you'll find the bargains, but the payoff won't be as big. But you can do them a lot quicker and a lot easier. So you can do more of them.
Why are you referring to high rent and not high resale value, like land?
Oh, I should say resale value.
Okay.
Yeah, it's high resale value area.
Oh, okay. How difficult is it to find these properties?
It's very easy, the way I
Okay.
do it.
Okay.
I call it panning for gold because when I first get the tax foreclosure sale list, there's like 1,000 properties on it. And I look at that as my gold pan. And each piece is a piece of gravel. And I know if I go through that whole list enough, eventually at the bottom of the pan, there's going to be several nuggets.
Okay.
And invariably, there's always at least one nugget in every pan that I've ever gone through.
So what are you
You know,
looking for in that list of 1,000? Do you literally, what's your process for going through that list of 1,000?
okay, there's a few techniques. The first thing I do is I look for low value amounts that are due in the back taxes. Because the high value are usually houses, or if it's worth a lot, nobody's going to let it go in the back tax. It's worth $1 million, nobody's going to let it go.
And there might be a
They just
mortgage
don't
on
do that.
there, and the mortgagee is probably going to
Yeah,
jump in and
but
pay
if the
for it.
back taxes are $1,000 and the property is only worth to them maybe $500 or 1,000, they'll let it go. So I go and I look for all the little ones,
Okay.
and I work backwards. And then the second thing I do, once I find the little ones, I'll take a look at it and see what their size and shape is and see if they're buildable.
Yes.
And I can tell just pretty much by looking at them if they meet the 7 criteria. And I can do that pretty quick by just looking at it.
What are your
You know,
7 criteria?
the variance criteria, or
Okay.
that it's or grandfathered, it was established before the code was met. So, grandfathering means
Mhm.
it's buildable no matter how big it is, because it was created before the zoning codes were written.
Okay.
And a lot of lots were created 100 years ago, and the
Hmm.
cities were only in existence for, let's say, 50 years,
Right. Okay.
approximately. And that's another one. The other one is they don't perk. They don't have sewer. They don't have
Mm.
water.
Okay.
So I try and buy lots that have sewer and water because that's real hard to get.
Yes.
And then I have a whole other program that I buy lots that don't have sewer and water because I know how to make lots perk that are underwater. And perk, what that means is you have to have a drain field on your property to
Hmm.
percolate the soil when the sewage goes in it. And there's another program I have where you can just run lines to the property for miles to somebody else's property to put the drain field on somebody else's property. So you can
Oh.
theoretically have a property that's completely wet that does
Yes.
not perk, doesn't allow
Yes.
a septic system,
Right.
and put the drain field on somebody else's property, and then you make him a deal, and then you can build it with the septic system on his lot.
And get an easement or her lot.
Yeah, and then you look for landlocked properties. If it's landlocked, you can't
Really?
get to it.
Yes.
And on those, I look at those, and then how I just approach the neighbors and ask for an easement to get access to it, and I'll call them up, and if it's in a nice area, and I'll see this a nice lot behind this guy's house, and there's room to drive in there. I said it's worth 500,000. So I call the neighbor and say, look, how would you like to make $250,000? And
Whoa.
they go, what? I said, this lot behind you is landlocked. If you give me access to it, I'll give you half the money. So that's the offer, because that's the
Yes.
carrot, because it's worth nothing to me without and
Yes.
if I can make half the money, that's huge.
Hmm.
So I make 250 instead of 500,
Right.
and it gives me an access easement.
No, but unless she wants to keep that lot then vacant, if you can't do anything with it, then it might improve her view.
Yes.
So that could be a challenge.
Yeah. So anyways, I peruse all these lots, and then the next thing I do is I look for out-of-state owners. Let's say I'll get a list of all these small ones,
Okay.
and then I look for out-of-state owners, because if a guy lives in Omaha, Nebraska, and he's owned this lot for 10 years here, that something's not right. And it's not attached to anything. It's just there by itself. Yeah, typically there's a reason.
Yes.
And that's a don't want her almost immediate. That's a double don't want her.
Right. Okay.
And so I do that. And then I call them up. I'll call them up, and say, hey, what are you going to do? Are you going to keep it or whatever?
And does that 10-to-1 ratio hold for those calls as well? Like how many of
Yeah.
them would actually
Yeah,
say
same
no?
thing.
Same
Yeah,
thing. Okay.
yeah. Actually, those are higher. Those have a higher probability. Those are like say 50-50
Okay.
because you're calling people who are really don't want her category. They're pretty easy to deal with. I'd say
Okay.
it might even be higher than that. Maybe it's 60 or 70%.
Right. Okay. You're not using a lawyer to actually purchase it. You're going over there with the transfer of deed paperwork.
Yeah, actually,
And,
it's remotely. So what I do is
okay.
nowadays you can have people sign stuff electronically and get it notarized
Hmm.
just by pushing a button.
Yeah.
So I can call him. Let's say I talk to the guy and he says, "Okay, I'll sell it to you for $1,000." I said, "Okay, I'll Venmo you the money in 5 minutes, and then I'll send you a deed, and then in 10 minutes, and you sign the deed electronically and send it back to me. In a half hour, he's got the money." And I send him the deed. He signs the deed. He notarizes it out on the computer, which you can
Yes.
do now. And then I get the notarized deed sent to me. And so
So,
that's it.
yeah, he or she signs it over to you before you send the money, and they're trusting you, or how does that work?
No, I send him the money first.
Okay, so you're trusting them.
I trust them because you're stealing this property. Okay. And so the rule is when you steal fast, if you never steal slow.
Okay.
And as soon as somebody says yes, you give them the money instantly.
Mm.
And they're happy. And if they, and let's say they take advantage of me and they keep the money and they don't sign the deed. What have I lost? I lost $500.
Yeah. Has that ever happened?
And it's never, nobody has ever done that to me in 40 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So then you get the title and then you get to work. And that could be 6 months or it could be 5 years.
Yeah. Actually, let me talk about that.
Okay.
What I do, there's the day you buy the property, you can theoretically sell it that day for a profit because it's worth, once you know the tricks, you can say, okay, I bought this property and I know with a variance, it's worth 100,000 or whatever.
Okay.
But you can tell somebody who's interested in buying properties that are willing to take the time to do the variance. You say, but I said, I don't have time to do it. I'll sell it today for $10,000. And then you do the variance. So you can actually sell the property the day you buy it if you can find people in the market to buy it from you.
Right.
And the rule is the more work you do on it, the more value it has.
Yes.
So the day you buy it, I'd say it's worth double, okay, to somebody. Because I have lots of people say, hey, if you find something, let me know where it is, I'll buy it.
Yeah.
But then you do a little bit of work on it. Let's say you work on it for 30 days and you got one thing done. Now it's worth a lot more.
Right.
So now you can put it on the market and sell it. No market and say, I've already taken one of the problems away. Is one more left. So you do it on your own and I'll sell it to you for 20,000.
Right. And what's an example of one of those things that you could solve in 30 days?
Oh, I'll tell you one I did. I bought this one this is a guy just who does what I do, and he's an expert at it.
Okay.
Except I'm better than he is. And he says, I can't do anything with this lot. I beat the hell out of it, and I just can't do anything with it. And I said, well, I'll buy it from you. So I gave him $1,000. And I looked at it, and I said, I think I can do something. It's a Lakeview property here. Nice sized lot, about a third of an acre, half an acre. On a road, and
Nice.
It's like 150 feet from the lake. But the problem is it doesn't have sewer. And the sewer manhole is 15 feet in front of the lot. 15 feet.
What do you mean
But
in front? What do you mean in front of the lot, not on the property?
Well, on the road. How you connect the sewer is you go to a manhole and you connect the lot to the sewer.
Yes.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
And normally the sewer company lets you do that. But this sewer company didn't. They decided that lot was not a sewerable lot. And
Okay.
they decided you can't connect to the sewer. And so this guy tried to connect to the sewer and they told him, forget it, get lost.
Okay.
And that was the only problem because everything else was good.
Right.
It's big enough. But I know that you can arm wrestle with these guys on the phone. For 30 days, I called the sewer company and just drove them crazy and gave them all this reasons. And they said, yeah, we can connect to the sewer if you spend $1 million and run a line half a mile away to the other sewer.
Right.
I said, it's only 15 feet in front. Can you make an exception? At the end of 30 days, they says, yes, you can connect to the sewer.
And will that get rid of you, Wayne? If we promise never to call
they said,
again?
okay, then yeah. And I sold it for $60,000 in 30 days. So I bought it, and 30 days later, I sold it for, well, $60,000. I don't even know what the multiplier is.
Yeah, the ROI
I made
on that.
$59,000 profit in 30 days on that. So that's where if you can solve the problems like that quickly,
Right.
that's what happens.
Did the person you buy it from, do they know about the sale?
Oh, they got really, they refused to sell me any more properties.
Why did this? Yeah, I bet. Why did or at least you could give them a entry into your course.
I know, yeah.
What was the objection of the sewer company in allowing the property to be hooked up to their sewer line?
Well, sewer lines, they have these boundaries. And if you're in a different jurisdiction, even though the sewer line is right there in front,
yes,
they won't connect you. You have to be within their jurisdiction you could be right on the city-county line.
Okay.
They're in the city, and they're the city sewer company.
Got
and
it.
The county is across the street. And then and they said, no, we don't do the county. We just don't do it. I said, but it's only 5 feet away. And one point I want to make is just when I do these things is why I'm doing this. And I have all this knowledge, and I don't want to die with my knowledge in my brain. And I want to share all this knowledge with people out there so they can do what I did. And it took me 40 years to learn it all.
Yes.
And I condense it into really succinct rules on how to do it.
I want to jump in here for a sec to say, if these conversations are firing up your entrepreneurial spirit and bringing you valuable insights, consider fueling the show with a virtual coffee. It's a real thing. And you can do it over at sidehustlehero.com/support. Every coffee helps us to keep bringing you episodes like this. Thank you so much for your support. And one of the things that you're doing differently, because I have seen people trying to do this by going to the tax sales, but what you're doing is preempting that and reaching out to the people ahead of time.
Right.
Really smart. Now, I had asked you about some of your favorite wins. Tell us about one of your deals that did not turn out as planned.
Oh, God. Yeah, there's a few of those.
Sure.
I've got this one that might die. I bought one of these little lots from the same guy I bought that lot, my old partner, with the Lakeview property. I bought two of them. I bought another one.
Okay.
And he says, you can't build on this. And I said, no, I can build on it. So I bought this property in the city of Tukwila. And we're going on 5 years now.
Okay.
And I did all the magic to get it buildable. And I got all the variances and this and that. And it just went on, and it took forever to do. But then we finally got to the end, and they said, if you do these 3 things, you're all done. So I did the 3 things, give it to them. And then what cities do, they say, oh, by the way, we're going to go and do one more thing. We want to go walk the property. They hardly ever do this. Walk the property and inspect it physically to see what it looks like. And they decided it was a wetland.
Oh.
But this is at the end of 5 years.
Yes.
And they said, your permit's going to expire in 3 months. And then now you have to do all the wetland stuff. And it takes 6 months to a year to do wetland stuff.
Okay.
So it looks like I'm not going to make the deadline. And they said, you can't extend the permit. So on this one, if I can't, I'm going to still go for it. But the chances are I won't succeed and I'll lose my deal. I'll lose all the money I got into. And I've probably got $50,000 or $60,000 into it now, and a lot of time. But that one could die because of how it came to be.
Right. And there's going to be some situations where there really isn't anything that you would do differently. Like you can't foresee the city coming along and go, oh, by the way, I know you've addressed these 3 things we told you to address, but we're going to add one more.
Yeah. And also cities change their mind. If it takes too much time, they change the codes. You start out and they say, okay, it's buildable according to your code, but then they change the code and then now it's not buildable and they won't give you a variance. So that's happened a few times too. But all you have to do is have one home run. pay for all your failed properties.
Yes. So in addition to reaching out to people ahead of time, you also do go to the sale
Oh yeah,
sometimes as well?
I go to
Yeah.
the sale
Okay.
too. I do both.
Yeah.
I do
Okay.
both because
Especially if there's
uh,
properties, I guess, that you haven't been able to reach the person.
yeah, and there are places where you can't reach the guys. You just can't
Yeah.
reach them.
Okay.
And
So for somebody starting out in this business then as a side hustle, how much of a bankroll do you think they need to have?
depends how far you want to get into it. You don't need much, but if you can actually buy a property for $1,000. I'd say right nowadays the minimum to buy a property is $1,000.
Okay.
Okay, and then if you do a survey or something, might cost you a couple thousand, something like that. But you can get into it for 1,000, and actually, if that's all you have, then you sell the property, do the short one, like I told you, where you just sell it immediately to somebody. Say, I just bought it, and I see if you do a variance for this, it'll be worth 50,000 or 100,000 or something. And you sell it to your buddy or your friends. You say, hey, and so you make a quick kill. And so you
Right.
sell it for 2 or 3,000 or 10. You just sell it for a little bit more. So you end up with build a bankroll.
And at this point, because we're dealing with somebody new to this business,
Yeah.
would you recommend then they've bought this, then they go to the city or county office to talk about the possibility of a variance?
Oh yeah. No, in fact, that's what you do.
Okay.
Once I buy these things and I sometimes I don't know what to do with them. And I'll go to the city and I'll say, hey, I've got this property. I don't know how to build it. Can you show me a way?
Mm.
And dramatically, they've helped me in the past. And they come up with stuff I'd never even dreamed about. And I still have lots of experience. And they come up with new stuff. We just passed this new rule that nobody knows about that says now you can do this and that. And okay, if you're lucky to get a good guy, if you get a
Yes.
good guy.
Or good, again, good girl.
Or
There
good
was
lady.
one that this woman in one office, the city planner, she was awesome. She bent over
Yeah.
backwards to make things work for me. And
Yeah.
so is it the city planner then that you would recommend?
Yeah.
That's the person
And
talking to.
the higher up the ladder, the better.
Yeah.
Typically, what I try and do is get somebody who's been around for a while. Like I
Yes.
say, by the way, who's the person that has the most experience here? Can I talk to them? I can do that. And a lot of times, I just go right to the director. I'll actually go to the head guy of the planning department
Mhm.
because he's the most experienced. And also, he's the decision maker. And they know everything. So that's really good.
So what skill set do you feel that you need to be successful at this?
Couple things.
Okay.
You have to be able to fail your way to success. And I call it mistake your way to success
Okay.
because this is a mistakes process because you're going to buy things that don't work. That's a mistake. But the mistake teaches you how to buy something better. Okay. And then you're going to call lots of people and fail on your phone calls with 10 of them. And the 11th one goes, yeah, I'll do it. So you have to be able to know that failing your way to success is a gift and not a detriment.
Yes. It's part of the
And
learning.
yeah, it's part of it. And what I do is when I fail or make a mistake, I laugh at myself because I know I'm on the way to becoming rich. And I've taught this to people. And once you get it, it's great because the alternative is you fail and you say your self-worth is terrible because you failed, and then you feel awful, and then you give up. That's the
Okay.
alternative.
Yes.
And I try and teach people to stay out of that negative loop and stay in a positive loop, which is, God, I just made a mistake, and just laugh at yourself and go, God, I'm on the way to getting really rich today.
Because next time I'm going to see that. Yeah. When you go to resell your properties, are you using a realtor?
Yes, you always want to use a realtor unless people wants to buy it. But
Yes.
yeah, I use and find a good realtor.
Mm-hmm.
You find a land expert who has lots of experience. And the realtor I use here, he's the top real estate land salesman in the state. And I pay him more than normal realtors.
Really?
Yeah, I don't dicker on this when it comes to giving a commission to a real good salesman.
Yeah.
I pay him 10%, and no matter what.
Have you found a good realtor like that to be a good source of information as well in terms of helping
Oh, yes.
you maybe
Oh, yeah.
review a
God.
property? Yeah.
Oh, in fact, no, they're very good. They're very good. But they're more marketing oriented, but
Yeah.
they've been through enough they can tell you what they've experienced. And yeah, they can teach you things.
If you were
Yeah.
to bring them a property and say, hey, I'm looking at this lot, these are the issues with it.
Yeah.
Do you see any way around it? Again, based on their experience. Have you found them to be helpful like that?
Yes,
Okay.
they will do that.
I can see this business really being appealing to someone for a side hustle because the time you put into it, it's mostly your decision. You're not on somebody else's
Yeah.
time clock. But what do you perceive the challenges to be for someone doing this as a side hustle?
The only challenge is not giving up.
Okay.
Because if you ride this horse and stay on, you're going to win absolutely.
Mm,
That's exactly how it is. If you stay on the horse and don't stop, you're going to win big. And that's the only thing you have to do.
right.
And because a lot of people, they're starting to give up. As soon as they stub their toe, they get up. So you want to fail your way to success, never give up, and you'll be wealthy. It's
Yeah.
automatic.
At what point do you see people giving up in this? Is it not being able to find the property, or they can find the property, but they're not being able to fix the problems? Where do you see the challenges there?
There's different levels, but the
Okay.
first one for the new guy
Yep.
is finding the property and making the deal. And you just
Okay.
gotta, that's the first one. You have to overcome that one. Call enough people to make a deal. And
Yes.
a lot of people don't like calling people. That's a
Right.
hard one.
And
But,
then starting out, you might be looking at making 10 or 20 calls until you
oh yeah,
find, right? Okay.
yeah. But it might be your first call that says yes too. I've had that before. I made one call and boom.
And you're
Okay,
like,
yes.
oh no, now what do I do?
I think this is an ideal thing for somebody who it's like a hobby. If you make it a hobby, you do your regular business,
Mhm.
that gives you your bread and butter.
Yeah.
And this gives you something at the end. See, when you're done, you have something at the end. You have an immediate savings account that's worth 100,000 or 50, 500, a giant savings account that it materializes out of nowhere because you did this work.
I can see this being potentially lucrative in those smaller markets, but somebody living in a truly urban space like Seattle or Toronto or Vancouver or New York,
Yeah.
it, it's probably not as feasible. Would that be fair?
No, it is feasible. In
Okay.
fact, I do it right here in my own backyard. And you have to look more.
Okay.
You have to you have to do more research. It's easier to do it in more remote areas
Okay.
because everything is just easier and there's more land available. But all you have to do is I just get a plat map. I look at a plat map and I see a piece of property that's not built, hasn't been built on. I'll call the guy on that. I'm hunting.
Yes.
I hunt. I'm hunting for a lot. And that's something I could do too. You don't even need the tax sale. You just get the local maps. I just drive around the neighborhood.
Right.
I just drive around my neighborhood and I go, God, there's a property that's not built on. The corner of that lot there is all built around it, but there's one little lot's not built on.
Right. What's going on
And then
with it?
I'll do some research. I'll research it and see, well, what's going on there? And then that's stuff you can do right here. And I live in a really expensive neighborhood. Some of the homes here sell for $11 million. There are opportunities everywhere on this junk property stuff.
Okay.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's unlimited.
What's the best way for our listeners to connect with you?
What I do is I buy my program. It's 70 videos and 2 books, but it's an ABC thing. It's you do this and you do that, and it tells you exactly step by step. So you don't have to know it. You just just parrot what's there.
Okay.
You don't have to create anything. And you just do, if you follow that, you're going to make a lot of money because there's any one of the ideas or the techniques. If you learn any one, you can make $1 million. Any one.
Anyone?
But there's 7 or 8 of them.
Yes.
You learn all 8. If you can't win by learning all 8 and doing it, something's wrong because it's automatic.
Okay.
But my site is called junklandintogold.com.
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 Okay. And you have a book by the same name, correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
And if people want to buy the program through your show,
Okay.
or say it was from your show, I'll give them a 25% discount off it. And all they have to put is the word Joan in the coupon code, Joan. Put that in the coupon, and they save 25% off the program.
Oh, that's very kind of you. What a nice surprise, Wayne. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and this is not just you give the program and walk away. This is an ongoing thing where we're going to monitor people and help them along the way forever, basically. And we're going to have support groups and mastermind groups and all that stuff for the people who bought the program.
Well, what's your best tip, Wayne, to inspire others to start or grow their side hustle dream?
Best tip is to believe in the future and to be optimistic that it can happen, that something good can happen. Because it's easy to get depressed and frustrated with the non-productivity of how life is generally. You're working yourself to death and there's whatever. So if you can look at this or anything else and actually say, there is an opportunity to change my life and make my life happier and better and feed my family and do all this stuff and actually have luxury and believe in it, then it's easier to try a new thing.
Yes.
So being in optimism is really important.
Yes.
Knowing that you're trying and feeling the happiness of doing it. Getting there is half the fun. I love what I do. I get excited about it. I've been doing this for 40 years and I get a new tax list and I go crazy. I wake up at midnight. I go, I'm going to look at the new list. It's just
like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah. So I say, be optimistic. Don't put yourself down for mistaking your way to success, and just give yourself lots of love and, try something new. And if you fail, that means you're getting closer to winning.
That's right. And you're developing another skill set in the meantime. Thank you so much, Wayne, for giving us the inside scoop on how to buy and sell junk land for huge profits. And of course, for being today's side hustle hero.
Thank you. It's been a delight and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Before you dive into this kind of side hustle, it's important to understand the local rules and regulations in your area. For example, Wayne mentioned that in some places, if someone's been using a property for a long time, even if they don't own it, they may gain legal rights to it. But here in British Columbia, Canada, that's not been my experience. I actually sat down with a real estate lawyer recently, and he confirmed that even if someone has been using a piece of land for 20 years, it still doesn't become theirs. So make sure that you know your local laws before you get started. Another thing Wayne and I didn't discuss is insurance. Now, depending on where you live, it may not be a concern, but when I bought a lot, I was advised to get insurance, just in case someone got injured on my property. Now, you might be thinking, wait, if they're trespassing, how is that my problem? But in some places, it actually could be. So again, check the regulations where you live. One thing I really like about this side hustle is that you can work at your own pace and on your own schedule. But keep in mind, it does require a cash investment, and it might take a long time before you see a return, if at all. So if this is something that you're considering, do your homework, understand the risks, and decide if it's right for you. Well, that's a wrap for today. In the episode description, you'll find the link to Wayne's website, Junk Land into Gold. Remember to use the code JOAN, JOAN, for 25% off his course. You'll find the full show notes at our website, sidehustlehero.com. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, it would be so appreciated if you would take a moment and add your comment, share the episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start or grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.